Namaskar friends. We have discussed recently about the labor laws. When I discussed about that labor laws and all, I told very clearly that each part of the law will be discussed in detail in the coming days. Now we are taking up minimum wages under the Code on Wages 2019. What every worker must know. Never assume you are getting paid correctly. Most workers don't even know that the law protects their pay more strictly than they protect their passwords. In this video, we are breaking down one of the most important parts of the Code on Wages 2019, the rules on minimum wages. If you are a worker, an employer, or someone planning to start a business, you need to understand exactly how minimum wages are fixed, revised, and protected. And trust me, the law has more layers than you think. By the end of this video, you will know what the government can fix, what the employers must follow, and what rights workers automatically get. What minimum wages actually mean? Minimum wages are the lowest amount an employer is legally allowed to pay. He can't pay below that money. It is not something recommended one, no, not expected, but it is just mandatory. No escape. Section 5 of the Act makes it very clear. No employer can pay less than the minimum wages notified by the government. Government is concerned state government. Every state should issue notification on that. How the government fixes the minimum wages? According to section 6, the government doesn't randomly pick the number, some random amount. No, there is a whole process behind it. The governments must fix minimum wages for time work, piece work, but even for piece work, the government still fixes a minimum time-based wage, so no one gets cheated when paid per piece. So assuming that you take the case of stitching a shirt, so government will fix the rate, what is the time normally taken for stitching a shirt. So based on that, the piecework rate will be fixed. So minimum wages can be set by the hour, by the day, or by the month. And how the wages are calculated? The code says the method of calculating wages must be prescribed. So workers and employers both know that the calculation is not something guesswork. If wages are hourly or daily, the method will be uniform across the state. How wages are categorized? When fixing minimum wages, the government must consider 1. The skill levels of the workers, unskilled, semi-skilled, skilled, and highly skilled. So the rate varies according to unskilled, semi-skilled, skilled, and highly skilled. The next point is geographical area. The reason is a metro city will need more money because the expenditure is more. So geographical area. In a village, you don't need that much money as you spend in a principal metro city. You spend some huge amount in Delhi for your transport or for your rent and other things. But the same rate does not apply in a small village far away from city. So geographical area is another factor. And if required, additional factors like extremely hot or humid working conditions, that also can be taken into account because under difficulties people work. So they get more money for that particular difficulty also. Hazardous job. Naturally, the risk adds to your salary component. So salary will be little more for working in a hazardous job. Underground work, again it is risky. So these are all the factors the government should take into account to fix the minimum wage. So someone working in a dangerous mine or in extreme heat doesn't get the same rate as someone doing simple, less risky work. The code even says the number of wage categories should be kept to a minimum. If you keep too many numbers, it leads to confusion. This keeps things simple, reduces confusion, and helps avoid exploitation caused by too many confusing classifications. What minimum wages include? Section 7 says the minimum wage may include a basic wage like government servant and organized sector basic salary, some allowances like dearness allowance and other transport allowance, etc. etc. Here basic wage, cost of living allowance equivalent to linked to price rise, that is dearness allowance, and cash value of concessions like essential goods supplied at lower prices. Suppose the employer gives you some ration, rice or some cereals or whatever it is, that can also be taken into account to add total wage, or it can be an all-inclusive rate covering everything together at one single component instead of saying basic wage, dearness allowance and everything. Okay, what is cost of living allowance? This is important. Prices rise always. Inflation happens always. So the code makes sure the minimum wages aren't stuck in early 90s or something. The government appoints authorities to update this allowance at intervals. Normally it happens every year. The existing system is for every year. For the as per the new code also, it is going to be, in my view, every year revision for price rise. And how minimum wages are fixed or revised? Section 8 gives the government two choices. Option A, state government can appoint committees with employer representatives, employee representatives and independent experts. The independent experts are economists, labor experts, something like that, and they will also be at least 1/3 of the total members of the committee. So committee has got employer side and employee side also. Both employer and employees are there, multiple numbers, and almost equal number, I mean 1/3, equal number of either employee or employer. You get experts also who will guide both employees and employers to fix the minimum wage. These committees study the conditions and recommend the correct minimum wages. And option B, state government publishes its proposal and gives at least 2 months for feedback from people who are going to be affected, both employers and employees. After that, government finalizes and notifies the new minimum wage, and that notified rate will come into force after 3 months unless specifically stated otherwise in the notification. So normally in 3 months it takes effect. The code also says minimum wages should be revised every 5 years. This is the important point. Take the case of bank employees. Take the case of public sector employees. Their salary is revised every 5 years. Government employees, central government employees, now the 8th Pay Commission has been given mandate to review their salary. So state government will follow that. Here it is done once in 10 years. But the organized sector, public sector or bank employees, their salaries are revised every 5 years. Similarly, the workers who are covered under this act, that is every worker, the salary should be revised every 5 years. Now this act has come into effect now in 2025. So 2030 or 31, next revision will happen. Now they will start doing all those things this year, and after 5 years there will be revision of entire structure. That does not mean every year there is no change. Every year there will be change in terms of cost of living index, which is nothing but dearness allowance. Now, floor wage. Section 9 introduces something new in Indian wage law, the floor wage, the bottom level wage, which will be fixed by central government. Central government fixes a national floor wage based on minimum living standards. Different geographical area can have different floor wages. But no state can set minimum wages below this floor wage fixed by central government. And if a state already has higher wages, it cannot reduce that, citing that national floor wage is less. No, they cannot reduce that also. This protects workers from exploitation across the entire country and ensures no state goes below a basic national standard. Now, right to full day's wages. Section 10 gives workers another important right. If a worker comes to work but gets fewer hours because the employer didn't give enough work, the worker must still be paid as if they worked for the full day. So employer cannot reduce the work and reduce the salary. They have to pay for full day. But this rule does not apply when the worker refuses to work, or in other special worker wants to go home halfway through, then it will be pro rata basis. But employer cannot reduce the work and try to give the reduced salary. Now, different jobs and different wages. Section 11 says, if a person does more than one type of job in the same day and each job has a different minimum wage, the employer must pay according to each rate for the time spent. Suppose one work he has spent some 3 hours. Reasonably, the 3 hours is accepted. And another work he has spent 4 hours. So 3 hours for entire day, what is the rate? Divided by the pro rata basis. Same way, for 4 hours, another calculation. Both will be paid to the employee. Now, piecework. Piecework, section 12 talks about piecework. If only a minimum time rate is fixed, then the employer must still pay at least the minimum time rate, even if the piece output is low. So there is a, for whatever reason, the output is less, but the reason cannot be attributed to the employee. Employee deliberately does not do work. No, there is a problem. Otherwise, there is a power shutdown. There is other issues. So output is less. They can't reduce the salary. The minimum time spent, whatever rate they have fixed, that should be paid again. So workers are not punished for slowdown caused by factors beyond their control. This is another important point. Normal working day. Section 13 allows the government to fix hours for a normal working day. Allow rest days every 7 days. So every week one must have at least 1 day rest. Provide overtime wages for working on rest days. Some jobs operate differently, like jobs involving urgent work, urgent repair work, jobs needing preparation outside normal hours, intermittent jobs, jobs needing completion due to technical reasons, jobs depending on natural forces like fishing. The government can prescribe how far these rules apply to each class of these workers. So every aspect will be considered by the committee and rate will be fixed accordingly. Okay, what counts as intermittent work? You take the case of driver. A driver who drives a car, he will take the family to one place and there the family will spend 2-3 hours. The driver should sit in the vehicle only. He cannot go anywhere. He is not effectively doing any work, but he cannot go also. He will be waiting till the family comes back. So this is intermittent work. When they come back, again driver work starts because he will drive them back to home or whatever it is. But this waiting time also counts for salary at some rate. So that will be fixed in the minimum wages. This is how intermittent work is calculated. Okay. Overtime we have already discussed. It should be paid double. If the worker works beyond normal hours, they must be paid overtime, which will be a minimum of double of that hourly rate. For full day, double the rate. This prevents employers from forcing extra hours work without paying proper salary hike. The biggest problem is not the law. The law is very clear, but the challenge is awareness. Many workers don't know their rights. Many employers don't know the latest notifications. and many workplaces still follow the outdated wage lists from decades ago. The gap is not in the rules, it's in the understanding and implementation. The code tried to fix this by unifying four old laws and creating one clear structure. The minimum wages are now tied to skills, area, nature of work, and inflation. The committees ensure that decisions are well balanced. The floor wage ensures no worker in India goes below a basic standard. And overtime rules ensure workers are paid fairly for extra work. The most powerful part of the code is this: if the government fixes a minimum wage, no employer can pay less, not by mistake, not by agreement, not by contract, not by policy. Nothing overrides minimum wages because it is mandatory. This gives workers something they never had strongly before: the legal protection that cannot be negotiated away. The minimum wages under the Code on Wages 2019 are designed to protect workers and guide the employers. They cover how wages are fixed, revised, calculated, and enforced. They ensure workers are paid fairly, whether they work hours, pieces, multiple jobs, overtime, or fewer hours because of the employer. And with the floor wage system, no state can go below a national standard of living. The final joke: the minimum wages keep rising to match living costs, but my salary is moving upwards like a bus stuck in a heavy traffic jam.